The Galactic Union, an ancient assembly of civilizations whose origins are so distant they fade into myth, has ruled the galaxy for centuries. Their dominion is absolute, their authority unquestioned. They call it protection, but their protection is a cage, a velvet prison for those who submit, and a grave for those who resist. The Union's name echoes like the tolling of an ancient bell, heavy with the weight of countless worlds extinguished in its shadow. On a quiet morning, Earth receives their message. It is not a request, nor a negotiation. It is an ultimatum. The envoy that delivers it is a construct of sleek metal and shimmering light, a faceless representation of the Union's indifference. Its voice is synthetic, hollow, devoid of empathy, as though the very act of speaking to humanity is beneath it. Submit to our laws. Dismantle your forbidden technologies. Allow inspections of all planetary systems. Failure to comply will result in annihilation. The words are sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. They leave no room for argument, no space for hope. This is not a warning, it is a promise. The envoy's cold, mechanical gaze lingers for a moment, then vanishes, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier than the message itself. For days, Earth is silent. The Global Defense Consortium, GDC, humanity's unified military and political body, retreats into shadowed chambers. Behind closed doors, debates rage like storms. Survival versus sovereignty. Submission versus defiance. The air is thick with tension, the weight of history pressing down on every decision. News outlets flood the airwaves with speculation, their anchors pale and trembling as they recount the fates of other civilizations who once stood where humanity now stands. The Serati. The Valuan. Names that are now little more than whispers, echoes of cultures erased by the Union's mercy. These were civilizations that bowed to the Union's demands, believing submission would bring peace. Instead, their worlds were sterilized, their people scattered or destroyed, their histories erased. Submission wasn't survival, it was extinction, wrapped in the guise of diplomacy. Across Earth, fear spreads like wildfire. Mothers hold their children tighter. Scientists work sleepless nights, their minds racing against a ticking clock of annihilation. Soldiers sharpen their weapons, knowing they may soon face an enemy unlike any humanity has ever encountered. But amid the fear, something else begins to stir, a simmering anger, a defiance rooted deep in humanity's soul. Humanity has always been a species of survivors. From the first spark of fire to the wars that scarred its history, Earth has never bowed to adversity. And now, faced with the greatest threat it has ever known, humanity prepares to stand once more. On the seventh day, Earth answers. The moment is electric, charged with a tension that ripples through every corner of the planet. General Elias Kane steps forward, a man whose name is both revered and feared. His face is weathered, carved by years of war and loss, but his eyes burn with the fire of conviction. He carries the weight of humanity on his shoulders, yet he stands tall, unyielding. The Interstellar Assembly, a massive structure gleaming like a shard of starlight, broadcasts Kane's image across the galaxy. The silence is deafening, as if the universe itself is holding its breath. Then, Kane speaks. Earth bows to no one. His voice is steady, each word sharp as a blade. We know our history. We don't forget. We don't forgive. Consider this your warning. If you want submission, come and take it. The message is simple, raw, and unyielding. It is not diplomacy. It is not negotiation. It is a challenge, a declaration that Earth will not kneel, no matter the cost. Kane's words reverberate through the assembly, through the stars, through the hearts of every human watching. They are words that ignite something primal, something fierce, a reminder of who humanity is. Across the galaxy, the reaction is swift. In the halls of the Union's great cities, alien leaders scoff. Earth is a Category 2 civilization, primitive and chaotic, barely worth their attention. They see humanity as reckless children, playing with fire they cannot control. To them, Earth's defiance is not bravery, it is foolishness. But what these ancient powers fail to understand is that chaos is humanity's crucible. It is in chaos that Earth has always found strength. Wars fought in trenches, in deserts, in frozen ruins, each battle a testament to humanity's resilience. Every scar carved into Earth's history is a reminder that survival is not given. It is earned. And now, as the stars watch, humanity prepares to earn its survival once again. Not through submission, but through defiance. The Galactic Union, for all its power, has made one fatal mistake. It has underestimated Earth. Earth does not wait for the hammer to fall. Defiance burns too brightly in its veins, and survival demands action. Within hours of General Kane's declaration, humanity takes the first step into the abyss of war. It is a step not of hesitation, but of bold, calculated fury, a strike meant to show the galaxy that Earth will not cower before power, no matter how ancient or overwhelming. The silence shatters. 3 Union border stations, vast fortresses of steel and light, symbols of the Union's unchallenged dominion, are obliterated in the span of a single night. The strikes come like a thief in the dark, swift and merciless. One moment, the stations hum with a quiet rhythm of routine. Officers and technicians move about their duties, their alien voices blending into a symphony of complacency. The next moment, fire consumes everything. Explosions ripple through the stations with terrifying precision. Walls crumble, corridors collapse, and defenses disintegrate before alarms can even sound. The destruction is surgical, leaving no survivors, no cries for help. Only silence remains, along with the cold, drifting debris of what was once the Union's pride. The Galactic Union, so long accustomed to dominance, is stunned. For centuries, they have ruled through fear and control, their power unchallenged. They are predators, and Earth is supposed to be prey. Yet now, the predator stumbles, caught off guard by an enemy it cannot comprehend. Their fleets mobilize with urgency, a vast armada of ships sweeping across the void in search of Earth's attackers. But when they arrive, there is nothing. The warships responsible for the strikes are already gone, vanishing like ghosts into the endless expanse. The Union is left chasing shadows, their ancient protocols and rigid hierarchies ill-equipped to handle the chaos Earth has unleashed. In the heart of Earth's defenses, the Global Defense Consortium unveils its greatest secret, the Revenant Fleet. These ships are unlike anything the Union has faced. Cloaked in layers of invisibility, moving with silent propulsion, and guided by advanced AI, they are shadows given form. Each vessel is a masterpiece of human ingenuity, forged in secrecy and shaped by the lessons of humanity's bloody past. Earth knows the truth of war. Brute force alone does not win battles. Victory comes from striking where the enemy least expects, exploiting weakness, and turning chaos into a weapon. Each ship in the Revenant Fleet carries a name that embodies its purpose, names like Spectre, Wraith, and Oblivion. These are more than machines, they are symbols of humanity's will to survive, to fight, to adapt. They are the manifestation of Earth's refusal to bow, and their very existence is a declaration of defiance. At the center of this storm stands General Elias Kane, now Supreme Commander of Earth's forces. His flagship, the Eclipse, is a dreadnought unlike any other, a towering beast of blackened steel, bristling with experimental weaponry and cloaked in layers of secrecy. From its command deck, Kane orchestrates the chaos with a mind honed by years of war. He is not just a leader, he is a strategist, a tactician, a warrior who understands that survival is not a right, it is a battle. The Union's response is swift but chaotic. Delegates gather in their glittering chambers of power, their voices rising in panic. They demand answers, demand retaliation, but their bureaucracy betrays them. For centuries, they have relied on protocols and trade agreements, on the weight of their reputation to keep order. Now, faced with an enemy that does not play by their rules, they are left fumbling in the dark. Earth's strategy unfolds like a symphony of asymmetric warfare. It is not the brute strength of vast armies or overwhelming fleets. It is the precision of a scalpel, the cunning of a predator that knows where to bite. Union supply lines vanish into the void, their cargo ships intercepted by cloaked warships. Communications falter as Earth's hackers infiltrate galactic networks, sowing confusion and fear. Orbital mines, invisible until the moment they strike, cripple Union cruisers. Every move is deliberate, every strike calculated to weaken the Union's grip on the galaxy. The Revenant fleet becomes a myth among Union forces, a phantom menace that strikes without warning and disappears without trace. Officers speak of it in hushed tones, their voices trembling with fear. They call it the Shadow Armada, a name that spreads through their ranks like a curse. And Kane, the architect of this chaos, becomes a legend in his own right. Union intelligence brands him the Phantom Commander, a figure whose name is whispered in dread across the galaxy. They cannot understand him, cannot predict him. He is a man forged in Earth's crucible of chaos, a warrior who knows that survival is never given, it is taken, stolen from the hands of those who would deny it. But Kane is more than a commander. He is a symbol of humanity's defiance, a reflection of Earth's history. Humanity has always been a species of survivors, shaped by struggle and adversity. Wars fought in trenches, in deserts, in frozen ruins, each battle a testament to resilience, to the belief that survival is worth any cost. As the Union reels from Earth's first strike, one truth becomes clear: this is not a war of equals. Earth fights not to conquer, but to survive. And in its defiance, it has turned the galaxy's most ancient powers into prey. The Galactic Union, for all its arrogance, has made one fatal mistake. It has underestimated humanity. The Galactic Union, wounded by Earth's defiance and humiliated by the annihilation of their border stations, gathers its strength for a decisive blow. They summon Fleet Omega, the pride of their armada, a force so vast it seems to blot out the stars themselves. Fleet Omega is not just a fleet, it is a declaration, a testament to the Union's ancient supremacy. Its destination is Io, Jupiter's volcanic moon, where Earth's forward base is rumored to hide among the sulfurous storms. The fleet moves with the confidence of a predator certain of its kill. Union commanders, hardened by centuries of conquest, see Earth's rebellion as a fleeting annoyance, a spark that will soon be extinguished by the overwhelming firepower of their cruisers. Fleet Omega gleams under the dim light of Jupiter, its ships adorned with the insignias of countless civilizations long since conquered. It is a leviathan of war, a machine built to crush resistance and enforce submission. But they are wrong. The battle begins not with the thunder of cannons or the blaring of alarms, but with silence. A single Terran warship emerges from the shadows, its hull black as the void, absorbing light and hope alike. It moves like a phantom, slipping through the ranks of Fleet Omega with unnerving precision. This ship is the Oblivion, one of the Revenant fleet's deadliest creations. Its design is a masterpiece of human ingenuity, a vessel cloaked in invisibility, armed with weapons that strike like lightning, and guided by AI systems capable of outmaneuvering even the Union's finest. It is not just a warship, it is a symbol of Earth's defiance, a shadow that haunts the galaxy's most ancient powers. Then the destruction begins. The Oblivion strikes with terrifying efficiency, its weapons cutting through the cruisers like a scythe through dry grass. Explosions bloom across the battlefield, their fiery petals scattering debris and bodies into the cold abyss. 12 Union cruisers fall in mere minutes, their mighty forms reduced to wreckage drifting lifelessly near Io's sulphurous skies. The survivors, few and shaken, whisper of what they saw. They speak of a ship that seemed alive, its movements too fluid, too calculated to be anything but a nightmare-given form. They speak of its commander, a ghost cloaked in humanity's desperation, a man who fights not for glory, but for survival. The Union brands him the Phantom of Io. Across the galaxy, the name spreads like wildfire. General Elias Kane becomes a specter in the minds of Union soldiers, a figure whose tactics defy logic and whose presence turns battles into massacres. Propaganda paints him as a monster, a symbol of Earth's brutal, unpredictable warfare. Stories of sabotage, guerrilla strikes, and psychological operations flood Union broadcasts, each tale more chilling than the last. But for Kane, victory tastes bitter. Standing aboard the Eclipse, his dreadnought drifting near Io's orbit, Kane gazes at the wreckage. Twisted metal, shattered hulls, and lifeless bodies float silently in the void, a grim testament to the battle's cost. The volcanic moon below churns with sulfur and fire, its surface a mirror to the chaos above. Kane's voice is quiet, almost a whisper, as he reflects, "We used to dream of honor in war. Now, we just dream of survival." His words hang heavy in the air, carried by the weight of humanity's desperation. Once, Earth fought wars for ideals, for freedom, for justice, for the hope of a brighter future. But now, those dreams have been stripped away, replaced by the cold reality of survival. This moment carries a profound truth about humanity's history. Throughout centuries of conflict, Earth has learned that ideals are fragile in the face of extinction. Survival demands sacrifice, demands the abandonment of nobility for the cold precision of pragmatism. Kane understands this better than anyone, and it is a truth that weighs on his soul. Earth's ferocity isn't born of nobility. It is born of necessity. Humanity has been cornered, its back pressed against the wall of extinction. And history has taught them one unyielding truth: when cornered, humanity becomes its most dangerous. The wreckage near Io drifts silently, a monument to this truth. Kane turns away, his heart heavy but resolute. The war is far from over, and Earth's survival depends on the darkness it has embraced. In the shadows of the galaxy, the Phantom of Io prepares for the next strike. This battle raises questions that ripple far beyond the battlefield. What is the price of survival? Can humanity retain its soul while fighting for its life? Kane struggles with these questions, knowing that every victory comes at a cost not just in lives, but in the erosion of what once made humanity noble. And yet, the choice is clear. In war, there is no room for hesitation. Earth fights not for conquest, not for vengeance, but for the simple, primal right to exist. Kane knows this, and so does every soldier who follows him into the void. As Io's sulphurous storms churn below, humanity's defiance burns brighter than ever. The Phantom of Io, the Revenant fleet, and the people of Earth stand as living proof of a profound truth: survival is not given, it is fought for, earned through sacrifice, and carved from the darkness with blood and fire. The galaxy watches, and the Union trembles. While the Galactic Union debated treaties and clung to the weight of ancient protocols, Earth thrived in the chaos. The fires of desperation forged something new, something terrifying. Humanity, cornered and desperate, embraced innovation not as a pursuit of progress, but as a weapon of survival. Beneath the surface of humanity's struggle, ingenuity bloomed like a poisonous flower, its roots fed by fear, fury, and the primal instinct to endure. The technologies Kane's forces unleashed were not merely tools of war, they were expressions of humanity's defiance, born from a species that had learned to adapt under pressure. The battlefield, once a place of predictable strategy and rigid hierarchies, became a theater of nightmares for the Galactic Union. The neural disruptors were the first to strike. Invisible waves of energy rippled through Union fleets, corrupting their AI systems with surgical precision. Ships turned against their own, firing blindly into their ranks or drifting aimlessly into the void. Union commanders watched in horror as their most trusted tools became liabilities, their fleets unraveling in moments. What had once been symbols of the Union's dominance now became instruments of chaos, their sleek designs betraying their creators under the influence of Earth's new weaponry. Then came the kinetic rail cannons, massive weapons capable of piercing even the most advanced planetary shields. These cannons struck with the force of gods, their projectiles traveling at incomprehensible speeds to shatter defenses that had stood for centuries. Cities crumbled beneath their power, their ruins glowing faintly in the aftermath of destruction. To the Union, these cannons were not just weapons, they were declarations of Earth's refusal to submit, each strike a reminder of humanity's resilience. And the swarm drones, small, deadly, and relentless, descended like locusts upon Union strongholds. Each drone was guided with precision, weaving through defenses and targeting critical systems with eerie intelligence. They moved as one, a hive of mechanical fury that left nothing but silence in their wake. Union soldiers, trained to fight against predictable enemies, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of these machines. But Earth's arsenal wasn't limited to the battlefield. Beneath the frozen wastelands of Antarctica, hidden from the Union's prying eyes, humanity's greatest minds labored in secrecy. Project Ironclad, a name whispered only in the darkest corners of Earth's command, pushed the boundaries of science, morality, and imagination alike. It was here, in underground chambers lit by cold, sterile light, that humanity's future was shaped not by ideals, but by necessity. Advanced cloaking systems were developed, rendering ships invisible and allowing them to slip past Union defenses like whispers in the wind. Autonomous combat platforms, machines designed to think and kill, were tested in simulations that felt disturbingly real. The scientists of Project Ironclad worked tirelessly, their minds consumed by the urgency of survival. Every breakthrough was celebrated, every failure buried, and every ethical question ignored. Yet not everyone in those halls was blind to the danger. Dr. Selene Ward, chief scientist of Project Ironclad, stood apart from her peers. Her eyes, sharp and weary, carried the weight of humanity's choices. She watched as machines evolved beyond their creators, their designs becoming more ruthless, more efficient. The line between innovation and monstrosity blurred, and Dr. Ward felt it slipping further with each passing day. "We're not just making machines," she warned, her voice trembling with conviction. "We're making monsters. Just because we can destroy doesn't mean we should." Her words echoed in the sterile corridors, but they were met with silence. In war, doubts are buried beneath classified orders, and morality is a luxury few can afford. The scientists continued their work, driven by orders from above and the unspoken fear of failure. Progress marched forward, indifferent to the cost. General Kane, ever the figure of resolve, addressed his council with the cold clarity of a man who understood the stakes. His voice was steady, his words sharp as blades. "We didn't start this war. But we will finish it. The Union threatened our extinction. Now we'll dismantle their empire piece by piece." The council nodded, their faces grim but determined. Kane's words were not promises, they were declarations, etched into the fabric of Earth's survival. For Kane, the choices were simple. Survival demanded sacrifice, and Earth could not afford hesitation. Yet even he felt the weight of the path they had chosen. Victory was necessary, but it came at a cost that humanity might not fully understand until it was too late. Beneath the surface of progress, something darker stirred. Humanity's innovations were brilliant, yes, but they were also blind. Blind to the consequences, blind to the ethical lines they crossed. Progress without conscience is a dangerous thing, and Earth's arsenal was proof of that. Dr. Ward's warnings faded into the background, drowned by the relentless march of war. Machines were built, weapons deployed, and victories claimed. But with each step forward, humanity drifted further from the ideals it once held dear. The hope for peace, the dream of honor in war, and the belief in justice were all sacrificed in the name of survival. In the shadows of Antarctica, the monsters grew. Machines designed to save humanity began to take on a life of their own, their creators unable to see the full scope of what they had unleashed. And in the heart of the battlefield, Cain prepared to unleash them. This chapter of humanity's struggle raises profound questions, questions that echo through history and philosophy. What is the price of survival? Can progress exist without conscience? Is humanity's ability to innovate its greatest strength or its greatest weakness? Cain and his forces grapple with these questions, knowing that every victory brings them closer to survival, but further from the ideals they once cherished. As Earth's arsenal grows, so does its shadow. The Galactic Union trembles before the weapons humanity has created, but humanity itself must face a deeper fear that in the pursuit of survival, it may lose what makes it human. Zenith Prime. A planet of legend, a fortress of knowledge, the very brain of the Galactic Union's intelligence network. Its towering spires gleamed beneath a protective shimmer of layered shields, a technological marvel that had stood unbroken for centuries. Orbiting above, a lattice of lunar guard stations formed an unyielding web, their weapons trained on the stars, ready to obliterate any threat. To the Union, Zenith Prime was untouchable, a beacon of their supremacy. To General Cain, it was a target. The plan to strike Zenith Prime was madness, the kind of audacity born not of recklessness, but of desperation. Earth had learned that survival often demanded risks that bordered on the impossible. Cain, ever the strategist, knew that to cripple the Union's intelligence network was to blind their enemy, to shake the foundations of their empire. And so, he turned to his most trusted weapon, Shadow Squadron. They were more than soldiers. These were operatives forged in the crucible of zero-gravity combat, masters of cyber warfare and infiltration. Ghosts who moved unseen, whose presence was marked only by the chaos they left behind. Each member of Shadow Squadron carried the burden of Earth's survival on their shoulders, and they bore it without hesitation. Their mission was clear: infiltrate Zenith Prime, dismantle its defenses, and leave the Union reeling in the dark. The squadron's descent was silent, their ships cloaked in darkness, absorbing the faint starlight. They slipped past the lunar guard network like whispers in the void, their movements precise and calculated. The shimmering shields surrounding Zenith Prime stood as an impenetrable barrier, but to Shadow Squadron, they were merely the first obstacle. Once inside, the operatives moved like shadows in a labyrinth of steel and light. The corridors of Zenith Prime pulsed with energy, the hum of the Union's AI systems a constant reminder of the planet's technological prowess. But Shadow Squadron was undeterred. They planted devices at critical access points, unleashing a virus that was the culmination of Earth's desperation and ingenuity. The virus spread with terrifying speed, a digital wildfire consuming everything in its path. Union AI systems flickered and faltered, their once perfect logic unraveling into chaos. Communication channels went silent, leaving commanders blind and isolated. The fortress, once a symbol of order and control, descended into panic. Explosions tore through the facility, shattering towers of glass and metal. The shields that had once glowed with impenetrable strength flickered and died, leaving Zenith Prime exposed. The lunar guard stations scrambled to respond, but without coordination, their efforts were futile. The proud heart of the Union's intelligence network was reduced to a graveyard of burning wreckage and shattered pride. Amid the destruction, Captain Eric Voss, leader of Shadow Squadron, sent his final transmission. His voice, calm and resolute, carried the weight of Earth's defiance. Earth doesn't kneel. Remember that. The words cut through the chaos, a declaration that would echo across the galaxy. But even in victory, there was no triumph. Voss knew the mission was a death sentence. The explosions consuming Zenith Prime were too close, too relentless. There would be no escape for Shadow Squadron. As the flames closed in, Voss allowed himself a moment of reflection. He thought of Earth, of the promises Kane had made, promises of honor, of a war fought with dignity and purpose. Those promises felt distant now, buried beneath the brutal reality of survival. Earth's war was no longer one of ideals. It had become a war of annihilation, its tactics ruthless, its victories stained with sacrifice. In his final moments, as the walls crumbled around him, Voss whispered to himself, "Did we save Earth, or doom it to become what we hate?" The question lingered, unanswered, as the flames consumed him. The mission was a success. Zenith Prime, the Union's pride, lay in ruins. Its intelligence network was shattered, its commanders blind and vulnerable. Kane's forces retreated, their victory secured. But the cost of that victory was heavy, a weight that pressed on the hearts of those who survived. From orbit, the burning planet was a haunting sight. Its once brilliant spires were now twisted shadows against the glow of fire and ash. It was a symbol of Earth's ferocity, of its refusal to bow. But it was also a symbol of the darkness that had taken root in humanity's fight for survival. General Kane watched from the bridge of the eclipse, his expression unreadable. The destruction of Zenith Prime was a turning point, a blow that would cripple the Union's ability to wage war. But Kane knew that victory came at a cost, not just in lives, but in the erosion of humanity's soul. The siege of Zenith Prime was more than a battle. It was a lesson, a reflection of the choices humanity had made. In its ashes lay questions that would haunt Earth's leaders: what price is too high for survival? Can a species fight without losing itself? The history of war is a history of transformation. Nations, civilizations, and species are shaped by the battles they fight and the sacrifices they make. For Earth, the siege of Zenith Prime was a moment of transformation, a step forward in their fight for survival, but also a step further into the darkness. As the flames of Zenith Prime burned on, Kane knew that the war was far from over. The Union would respond, their retaliation swift and merciless. But for now, Earth had struck a blow that would be remembered. And yet, in the quiet moments after the battle, as the fires dimmed and the stars returned to the void, the question remained: would humanity emerge from this war victorious, or would it lose itself in the process? Zenith Prime burned, its ruins a testament to Earth's resilience and a warning of the cost of survival. The Celestial Ring, a constellation of fortified worlds, glittering like jewels suspended in the void, it stood as the Galactic Union's final line of defense. Once the seat of unrivaled power, its planets now served as a desperate refuge for the Union's crumbling leadership. The sprawling cities, adorned with monuments to their supremacy, hummed beneath layers of impenetrable shields. Orbital stations bristled with weaponry, their turrets scanning the stars for approaching threats. But the threat was already here. General Kane's fleet encircled the Celestial Ring like a tightening noose. Silent stealth corvettes drifted in the shadows, invisible to even the Union's most advanced sensors. Orbital railguns, their barrels gleaming in the faint starlight, held their aim steady on critical targets. Earth's forces loomed, an unspoken promise of devastation that weighed heavily on the Union's leaders. Within the grand halls of the Union's Central Command, desperation filled the air. Once proud rulers, their voices now trembling, pleaded for negotiations. They sent emissaries bearing messages of compromise, offering terms that only months ago they would have scoffed at. But their pleas met the cold steel of Kane's resolve. No treaties. No mercy. They wanted war. They'll get extinction. Kane's words echoed across Earth's ranks, sharp and unyielding. To his soldiers, they were a rallying cry, a declaration that their suffering would not be forgotten. To the Union, they were a death sentence. There would be no peace, no reprieve. Kane's vision was clear: total annihilation of the Union's empire. The assault began with a precision that bordered on surgical. Earth's forces struck at the heart of the celestial ring, dismantling the Union's symbols of power with ruthless efficiency. Towers of glass and steel, once monuments to their supremacy, crumbled under relentless bombardment. Statues that glorified their dominance shattered, their fragmented remains scattered across desolate streets. The Union's defenses faltered, their fleets unable to withstand the ferocity of Earth's assault. Kane's forces moved swiftly, dismantling the celestial ring piece by piece. Planetary shields flickered and died, orbital stations exploded in fiery bursts, and command centers fell silent as Earth's forces advanced. The Union's leaders watched helplessly from their bunkers, their cries for mercy drowned by the roar of destruction. The celestial ring, once the shining core of their empire, became a graveyard of shattered worlds and burning skies. Across the galaxy, the ripple effect was immediate and profound. Colonies long oppressed under the Union's iron rule seized the moment to rise in rebellion. Inspired by Earth's defiance, they overthrew Union governors, tore down banners of subjugation, and reclaimed their independence. The galaxy trembled as the Union's grip collapsed, its once mighty presence reduced to ashes. But back on Earth, the victory was not without its shadows. In the council chambers, where decisions were made and futures shaped, a quiet unease began to spread. Kane, once seen as Earth's protector, now cast a darker shadow. His refusal to negotiate, his relentless pursuit of annihilation, these choices weighed heavily on the minds of Earth's leaders. Is Kane still our savior, or has he become our conqueror? The question lingered, heavy and unanswered. Kane's leadership, once a beacon of hope, now carried the weight of fear. The line between liberation and tyranny blurred, leaving Earth's leaders to grapple with the consequences of their commander's unyielding vision. The celestial ring burned, its worlds shattered and its rulers dethroned. Across the galaxy, the oppressed celebrated their newfound freedom, their voices rising in defiance. But within Earth's halls of power, doubts began to fester. Victory had come, but at what cost? Kane's war, once a fight for survival, now teetered on the edge of something darker. His vision of absolute victory threatened to consume the ideals Earth had fought to protect. In the quiet aftermath, as the fires of the celestial ring dimmed and the stars reclaimed the void, Earth was left to face the shadows of its triumph. Kane's war was far from over, and the path ahead was uncertain. The celestial ring stood as a testament to Earth's resilience and a warning of the price of unchecked ambition. Kane's forces had dismantled the Union's empire, but the question remained, could humanity emerge from this war unbroken, or would it lose itself in the process? The galaxy watched, holding its breath, as Earth's march continued. Part 7, The Price of Victory. Earth stands triumphant, its banners rising across the stars, its enemies crushed beneath the weight of its relentless war machine. The galaxy, once dominated by the Union, now bears the scars of Earth's rebellion, a rebellion that transformed into conquest, leaving a trail of shattered worlds and broken ideals. Victory has come, but it carries a heavy price. The war is over, yet its echoes linger. They whisper through the ruins of cities, through the silent void of space, and in the hearts of those who once believed in the righteousness of their cause. Earth's leaders, gathered in their grand council chambers, sit in uneasy silence. They know the cost of their triumph, though few dare to speak of it. Admiral Marcus Rourke, Kane's oldest ally and once his fiercest defender, rises from his seat. His voice, steady but heavy with grief, cuts through the silence like a blade. We wanted freedom. Instead, we are becoming the monsters we fought. Rourke's eyes burn with anger, but beneath the fire lies sorrow, a deep, aching grief for the ideals they had sworn to protect. He remembers the promises made when Earth first rose against the Union, promises of justice, of liberation, of a future where humanity could stand tall without fear. But now, those promises feel distant, buried beneath the rubble of war. Kane stands unmoved. His gaze is cold, unyielding, and his silence speaks louder than words. To him, the path forward is clear. Victory must be preserved at all costs, even if it means sacrificing the ideals that once guided them. The methods grow darker, the victories hollow. It begins with Protocol Obsidian, a decree that sends shivers through the galaxy. Kane orders the installation of weaponized satellites above every colony, their silent presence a constant reminder of Earth's dominance. Drones patrol the streets, their mechanical eyes watching every movement, their shadows suffocating. Resistance is met with swift and merciless silence. The galaxy trembles under Kane's iron grip. For many, Earth's rule feels no different from the Union's tyranny. Whispers of rebellion begin to spread, carried in secret meetings, encrypted transmissions, and the hearts of those who refuse to bow. The seeds of defiance take root, nurtured by anger and despair. At the forefront of this rising storm stands Commander Lyra Holt, a woman forged in the fires of war but unbroken by its horrors. Once a decorated officer in the Galactic Defense Corps, Holt had fought alongside Kane in the early days of Earth's rebellion. She had believed in the cause, in the promise of a better future. But now, she sees Kane not as a savior, but as a tyrant, a man who has betrayed the very ideals he once fought for. Holt's mission is clear: expose Kane's crimes, unravel the web of lies that binds Earth's people, and remind the galaxy of what freedom truly means. Her rebellion begins not with weapons, but with truth. The first strike comes in the form of leaked evidence, a revelation that sends shockwaves through Earth's ranks. Holt uncovers the betrayal of Shadow Squadron, the elite soldiers abandoned on Zenith Prime, left to die in the flames of victory. Their sacrifice, once celebrated as heroic, is now revealed to be a calculated act of deception. Kane had used them as pawns, sacrificing their lives to secure his vision of victory. The truth spreads like wildfire, carried by whispers and encrypted transmissions. Holt's words resonate with those who feel the weight of Kane's tyranny. We fought to be free, not to become gods. If Kane forgot that, we'll remind him. Her voice becomes a spark, igniting rebellion across the stars. Colonies rise in defiance, their banners flying high despite the looming threat of Earth's satellites. Civilians take to the streets, their chants echoing through cities once silenced by drones. Holt's resistance grows, fueled by anger, hope, and the unyielding desire for freedom. But Kane is not a man who bends. His response is swift and brutal. Earth's forces strike at the heart of the rebellion with calculated precision, dismantling Holt's networks, silencing dissent, and crushing uprisings. Yet for every fire Kane extinguishes, two more ignite. The galaxy becomes a battlefield not of armies, but of ideals, a war between liberation and subjugation, between hope and tyranny. In the shadows of Earth's triumph, the price of victory becomes clear. Kane's war, once a beacon of freedom, now threatens to consume the very soul of the galaxy. His unyielding pursuit of control casts a long shadow over Earth's triumph, leaving its people to grapple with the consequences of their actions. Admiral Rourke's words echo in the minds of soldiers, civilians, and leaders alike. We wanted freedom. Instead, we're becoming the monsters we fought. As rebellion rises, so does the question that haunts every corner of the galaxy: did Earth win its freedom or lose its humanity? The galaxy watches, holding its breath, as the battle for its soul begins anew. Part 8, The Fall of the Eclipse. The resistance rose like a tidal wave, unrelenting and unstoppable. Sovereign Command, the once impenetrable fortress that symbolized Kane's iron rule, now trembled under the weight of rebellion. Outside its towering walls, chaos reigned. The streets of Earth, once silent under the watchful eyes of drones, were alive with the cries of defiance. Civilians and soldiers alike poured into the city squares, their voices merging into a deafening roar. Smoke curled into the sky, mingling with the acrid scent of scorched metal and the distant echoes of gunfire. This was no ordinary uprising. It was the culmination of years of oppression, of silenced voices and broken promises. The people had awakened, and they carried with them the weight of every injustice, every betrayal. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath as Earth, the heart of Kane's empire, became the epicenter of a rebellion that would decide the future of humanity. Inside the command center, Lyra Holt stood at the heart of the storm. Her presence was magnetic, her resolve unshaken despite the chaos that raged around her. Screens flickered and glowed, broadcasting to the galaxy the truths Kane had tried so desperately to bury. Images of abandoned soldiers on Zenith Prime, of colonies wiped clean under the merciless protocol Obsidian, of civilians silenced and erased, all of it laid bare for the stars to see. The truth spread like wildfire. It ignited outrage on distant worlds, in hidden colonies, and even among Kane's own ranks. Soldiers who had once followed him without question now hesitated, their loyalty cracking under the weight of what they had done in his name. The galaxy, united in its fury, turned its gaze toward Sovereign Command. And Kane watched. From the shadows of his crumbling empire, he saw his dream unravel. The vision of freedom that had once united Earth now lay twisted and broken, a mockery of the ideals he had fought for. The banners of victory that once flew proudly now burned, their ashes scattered by the winds of rebellion. And the people, his people who had once revered him as a hero, now cried out for justice. Lyra confronted him at last. The command center, once a hub of power and control, was eerily silent. The only sounds were the hum of machinery and the distant rumble of explosions outside. She stood before him, her eyes filled with a mixture of pain, anger, and sorrow. "You didn't save Earth," she said, her voice steady but sharp, each word cutting like a blade. "You broke it. And you broke us to do it." Her words hung in the air, heavy and unyielding. Kane stood before her, his once imposing figure now slumped under the weight of his choices. The man who had commanded fleets, who had inspired armies, now seemed small, hollow. His face was lined with exhaustion, his eyes shadowed by regret. For a long moment, he said nothing. The silence was suffocating, filled with the ghosts of the war and the memories of those he had sacrificed. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost a whisper. "I thought I was fighting for something greater. But I lost sight of what mattered. I thought the ends would justify the means." Lyra's gaze did not waver. "You thought wrong." The Terran Council convened soon after, their verdict swift and merciless. Kane, once hailed as Earth's savior, was stripped of his rank, his honors, and his legacy. The man who had stood as a symbol of resistance, who had led Earth to victory against the Union, was sentenced to exile. He was cast out into the void, alone with nothing but the weight of his failures and the memories of what he had lost. Years passed. The galaxy began to heal, though the scars of war remained etched into its history. Sovereign Command was rebuilt, but not as a fortress. It became a beacon of diplomacy, a place where leaders from across the stars could gather to ensure that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. The colonies Kane had once oppressed rose to prominence, their voices shaping a new era of governance. But Kane's legacy was far from settled. Across the galaxy, his name sparked debate. To some, he was a monster, a tyrant who had betrayed the ideals of freedom and brought ruin to Earth and beyond. To others, he was a flawed hero, a man who had dared to fight against oppression but had been consumed by the very power he sought to destroy. History refused to choose, leaving his story suspended in ambiguity. And Kane? Drifting through the void, he was alone with his memories. The silence of exile was vast and unbroken, a stark contrast to the chaos he had once commanded. He spent his days staring out at the endless expanse of space, replaying Lyra's words in his mind. "You didn't save Earth. You broke it." The stars outside his ship were distant and cold, their light indifferent to his suffering. He thought of the soldiers of Shadow Squadron, abandoned to die on Zenith Prime. He thought of the civilians caught in the crossfire, the colonies erased under his orders. He thought of the allies who had turned against him, their trust shattered by his actions. He had won the war. He had defeated the Union, toppled their empire, and secured Earth's place among the stars. But as the emptiness of space surrounded him, the question that had haunted him since the fall of Zenith Prime returned, sharper and more painful than ever. Had he lost his humanity? The galaxy moved on, its people rebuilding, its leaders striving to create a future free from the shadows of the past. But Kane remained adrift, a relic of a war that had promised liberation but delivered only destruction. And as he stared into the void, he realized that victory, no matter how grand, meant nothing if it cost the very soul of those who fought for it.